How's it going, folks? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're continuing our testing of the remastered version of Oblivion. For those that don't know, they've essentially remade the game in the Unreal 5 engine, and today we're testing with our 3070. And I think this is going to be an important video because I think the 3070 kind of represents the mid-range quite well. There's a lot of cards that sit around or close to it. You know, you've got cards like the 3060 Ti, which isn't a million miles away. You've got the 4060 above it. You've got the 7700 XT from AMD. There's a whole load of mid-range stuff out there that I think is very, very important, and it's important that these games are able to run well on those sorts of cards. So we're going to do some testing today and kind of see what we need to dial the game into to get a good playable experience on a card such as this. Now, we're going to start at 4K, just very, very briefly. Obviously, the 3070 is not a 4K card. Obviously, raw power is one issue. The other issue is it's 8 gigabytes of VRAM. But yeah, just for the science, just for the laughs, we'll turn it on and we'll see what happens. So let's see what's what. We're running at 4K on the Ultra preset, and we're going to use DLSS Performance. Let's just see what happens, just for the fun, very quickly, and then we'll get into the actual serious 1440p, 1080p testing. Oh boy, yeah, 43 FPS. That's not great, is it? That's not great. This is with DLSS Performance as well. Now getting into the 30s. Once we get closer to... Oh no, this guy's going to attack me. 20 FPS now. We're getting near the fire, and this guy is deciding to have a pop at us. Right, you're going to get it. I'm sorry, buddy. I'm benchmarking here. I haven't got time for this rubbish. Oh, you as well. So suffice to say, even with DLSS in performance mode at 4K, it's just not happening for us, is it? I suppose the other end of the scale, just to quickly test, would be 4K low. All right, so if you're willing to go to 4K low, you can actually get above 60 FPS on a 3070. That's I mean, it looks like poop, but you know, it is what it is, I suppose. What about medium? This is with DLSS Performance as well. In fact, let's turn off DLSS. Let's see what it can do. 4K low, no upscaling. What can it do? Yeah, so we're barely getting above 30 FPS, aren't we, with 4K low without any DLSS. But then the 3070 was never really a 4K card, was it? So let's jump into the 1440p testing and let's get to it. All right, 1440p Ultra preset, and we are using the software RT quality, and we're going to start without any DLSS upscaling. We're just going to see what we get with some raw raster out of the powerhouse that is the 3070. So let's jump in. Oh my giddy aunt, that's even worse than we're at 4K low. 20 FPS. Wow. I mean, this says quite a lot, doesn't it, about modern gaming, in that, you know, we're relying on all these sort of tricks and wizardry such as upscaling and frame generation just to get by. That's wild. Okay, so 1440p Ultra is out of the question without some DLSS. Let's see if we can get ourselves some performance back with DLSS. Okay, DLSS quality hasn't really hit the spot, has it? I mean, it's helped a very small amount, you could argue, but this is still nowhere near what I would call playable. We're going to skip right over balanced, and we're going to go to DLSS Performance. All right, into performance now, and we're in the 40s, but it's still not good enough, is it? And keep in mind, we're on a 30 series card, so we can't rely on NVIDIA frame generation either. Oh boy, okay. So 1440p Ultra, completely out of the question. I mean, we're getting close to 60 FPS now, but as soon as we get near this fire, it's going to destroy us, isn't it? Yeah, because of the RT going on, back down to sort of 49, 50, 48 FPS. Okay, let's start dropping some quality settings then and see where we land. Alright, dropping down to the high preset from the Ultra has actually helped quite a bit, hasn't it? We're still running in DLSS Performance, so don't forget, but we are just above 60 FPS, which isn't so bad, is it? It's playable. It's playable. Might not be what you want, but it's playable. Now, I'm presuming if we were to go to DLSS quality, our kind of average of 70 FPS, the 77 instant readout we're getting right now looking over this lake, is going to drop quite considerably, so let's check that out. Yeah, so going to quality, look, we're obviously GPU limited, pegged at 99%, 230 watts power draw, 63 FPS now, what we're getting sort of in DLSS quality, and I'm guessing as we go for a little wander, that could probably end up in the 50s if we're not careful. I'm guessing that fire as we walk past it might cause us a problem or two. 59. I mean, in fairness, it's not doing terribly, is it? It's really not doing that. Oh, 56, 55, 51. Okay, maybe it is doing terribly. Depends where you look, but this is kind of what I would consider to be right on the ragged edge. Not really where I like to play my games. I like to have a nice little bit of a buffer going on. Just in case you reach a more demanding area than this, then you've got something left in the tank. Alright, so we've dropped down to medium at DLSS quality still, and now we're getting sort of 77, 78 FPS. That's not bad. This makes me much happier. Much happier. Look at that, like in the 90s now. Obviously, it depends where you look. Again, this fire is probably going to cause us a bit of grief as we walk around the corner. But we're staying above 60. We're staying above 60, aren't we? Crucially. So that's not a terrible place to be, is it? That's not a terrible place to be. Now then, we're only running the software version of ray tracing. If we were to enable the hardware one, oh god, what are we at now? Sort of an average of 78, 79 FPS, instant readout of 78. 78, remember that. Let's turn on the hardware ray tracing and see what that does to our FPS. Okay, so we've gone to the hardware ray tracing on low, and we're right down pretty much at 62 FPS, which, yeah, not loving that. Not loving that. I think it's going to have to be the software RT for the 3070. It's just, yeah, I mean, it was never the strongest RT card back when it was new. Yeah, I just feel like it's just a touch too far. Look at that instant readout now in the 50s. Obviously, we're at night time now, so it is going to vary again, your performance based on day and night, because obviously lighting plays quite a big part. This game does have a day-night cycle, so keep that in mind. So I've just switched the RT hardware setting to Ultra, and we're now just below 60 FPS, which really isn't what we want, obviously, as we start moving around. Yeah. Software, it's got to be the software one on low, I think, for the poor old 3070, bless it. Yep, so we're now back to 1440p medium DLSS quality with the software RT set to low. And this is alright, this is playable. This is playable. The lows are a bit lower than I would like, ideally, but I think that's a UE5 thing for the most part. Totally playable, though. 1440p medium with some DLSS, it would seem, is the way to go. If you want to get a bit higher FPS, I suppose you could go to performance. What are we at now? Getting about 70 in quality. And yeah, if you go down to performance, you can get sort of closer to 100, 99, 100 FPS, which again, not terrible. Not terrible at all. Now, all of this is being done with DLSS 3. If you look in the bottom left there, you can see a render preset of C. That tells us we are on DLSS version 3, got the version 3.7.20. However, in the NVIDIA app, you can swap out to DLSS 4, and the upscaling technologies for DLSS 4 can be backported to the 3000 series of cards. So we can actually switch the game from DLSS 3, which the developers made it in, and the NVIDIA app will switch it out to DLSS 4 for us, which will get us access to a higher image quality transformer model that comes with DLSS 4. Now in DLSS 3 at 1440p, I can't hand on heart recommend you really run in performance mode. I feel like the image quality just isn't there. However, with DLSS 4, different conversation entirely. So let's just quickly go ahead and do that. Alright, and here is the NVIDIA app. So we go into our graphics settings, choose game, which is obviously Elder Scrolls Oblivion 4. And here we can come down to DLSS override model presets. Click into here, and you can either select to use the same settings for all DLSS technologies, or you can choose one by one. But of course, the 3070 can't support frame generation, so that's grayed out. It doesn't support ray reconstruction at the moment with this game, it seems. But it can do super resolution. So if we can either use the 3D application setting, which would be to use DLSS 3, because that's what the devs used when they built the game, or we can click latest, and now the NVIDIA app will switch out DLSS 3 in the back end to DLSS 4, and we get a visual upgrade instantly. Really nice. Let's reboot the game. Alright, we're back. Now running DLSS 4. You can see in the bottom left there it says render preset K version 3.10.2.1. That tells me that we're running in DLSS 4. But obviously it's a different time of day, but look how we are now averaging around 90 FPS, which is a bit of a drop compared to what we had with DLSS 3. So yes, you do lose some FPS, but the image quality you get is a lot higher. I would say DLSS 4 in performance rivals DLSS 3 in quality mode. So that's a choice you're going to have to make. I generally really like DLSS 4. I find the detail in motions a lot better. Everything just looks better, particularly at performance. It puts performance mode on the table, whereas before I would have avoided it like no end. And I think given the fact that at 1440p with the 3070, we're going to probably need to rely on DLSS very, very heavily. If we're going to have to go to performance mode, which I think really we will, I think quality mode was a little bit close to the bone. It's nice to have a performance mode that's a bit better, even if it comes at the cost of a few FPS. Just moving it back up to the high preset with DLSS 4 in performance mode just to see what we get. Looking around sort of the 70-ish% mark, aren't we? Which isn't awful. Which is not awful at all. Now let's have a little fight with this dude here. Oi! Yeah, so on the high preset, DLSS 4 in performance mode, we're sort of flirting with 60s, 70s, so it's really up to you. If you want the visuals, I guess you can go to high at 1440p if you're willing to use DLSS in performance mode. In performance mode with DLSS 4, I would say it looks actually quite good visually. Performance mode in DLSS 3, particularly at 1440p, not so much for me. So I think really the high preset becomes more tenable if you're also using DLSS 4, because then you can whack it into performance mode and not lose a ton of image quality. So I think that'd probably be my kind of closing thoughts on 1440p really. High if you want to use the DLSS 4 performance mode and you're happy with kind of 60, 70 FPS. Obviously it might change different parts of the game, different times of day, different environments. If you want to give yourself a bit more of a buffer, you can then drop it down to medium, probably still while at performance mode, but then you're sort of comfortably into the sort of 80s, sometimes 90 FPS mode. It really does depend on what you want to achieve with the game. And a game like this, I would say anything sort of 16 above is perfectly playable and acceptable. This isn't like Counter-Strike after all, is it? All right, time to give 1080p a go. We're going to run, first of all, 1080p, Ultra, no DLSS, just to get a sense of what's going on with native rendering, and obviously Lumen Software RT is what we're using, and it's on the low preset. Wow, look at that. Even at 1080p, 40 FPS is like all we're getting. That's testament, isn't it, just to what an Unreal Engine 5 game can do to a GPU. I guess what I'd like to find out is, can we remain at Ultra if we go to 1080p? I feel like going to 1080p should afford us, a couple of nice little extras. Like, can we just stay at Ultra if we're happy to stay at 1080p, even on a 3070? Maybe with a bit of help from DLSS, because we're not a million miles away. I feel like maybe DLSS performance could get us comfortably above 60. I'm not sure if it will, but let's start with quality, because if that can get us there, even better. Even with DLSS 4, I'd much rather take quality over performance, but performance is still absolutely fine. So let's start with DLSS quality. Hey, look at that. That isn't terrible, is it? What are we there getting? Sort of 65 FPS looking over the lake here. Guessing, though, as we move around, it might get a bit different for us. Let's have a look at this fire. Yeah, so we're into the 50s now. We're looking at this fire. I think on that basis, it's a little bit close to 60 for my liking. I'd like to have a bit more of a buffer, ideally. So on that basis, let's go for performance mode. Okay, we're into performance mode. Look at that GPU usage, still at 99%, drawing over 200 watts of power. But we do seem to be more comfortably in the 70s than we are borderline 60, which isn't bad at all, is it? Not really. What's that fire going to do to us if we sort of go near it? 70, 72, 73. Okay, that's pretty good. 63. That's not bad. That's not bad. So maybe if you do really want to play it Ultra, you got a 3070, the 1080p with a bit of DLSS, you can do it. Curious to see what going to balance would do. So we tried quality without performance. Balanced, is that gonna be any good? Yeah, so balanced, we're sort of high 60s here, aren't we? Let's go for another wander. GPU's absolutely rammed still. It's alright, isn't it? Just staying above 60, 59. I don't know, I kind of feel like with 1080p, ugh, yeah. And I don't like the fact we're using DLSS at all at 1080p. So maybe going for the highest quality is the sensible play at 1080. I don't know. I mean, really, the sensible play would be to drop quality settings first, wouldn't it? But then I kind of feel like we're probably going to need some DLSS no matter what we do. I mean, I don't really want to be playing a game like this at low. Even on a 3070, I feel like that's a bit crazy just to, playing it on low on a 3070. Are you serious? So how far do we have to drop down without any DLSS at 1080p to get above 60 FPS? Okay, we're at the high preset and we're almost at 60 FPS. I did notice, however, that when you go to the high preset, by default, it adjusts the resolution scale. So I think we're at 87% resolution scale right now as a result of clicking the high preset. But that's, it's not the worst, is it? That's higher than I thought we might get. Again, we're still right on what I would call the limit of being close to 60 FPS. Yeah, now we're sort of in the 50s, now we go near that fire again. So I probably wouldn't recommend this, but it's encouraging. Sort of getting 57 FPS as we look straight ahead now. Let's go to medium. Medium preset selected, and you notice how the resolution scale is now 71%, so keep that in mind. There you go, look, 85 FPS on medium, 1080p, no DLSS, no funny business, just raw raster. The way nature intended. Now, what if we change that render resolution back up to 100%? So 88, 89 FPS as we look straight ahead. Crank that to 100. Oh my giddy aunt. Yeah, so putting the render resolution to 100 that's had quite a big impact, hasn't it? But we are above 60. Just about. And that is looking at the fire. If we come over here, presumably our frames will start to improve a bit. In the 70s. Yeah, okay, so maybe you could get away with it. Maybe you could get away with it at 1080p. Medium, no DLSS. Of course, if we were to enable DLSS now, 80, 90, obviously in the 70s now, we're looking at the fire. Occasionally getting triple digits in terms of our FPS at 1080p medium DLSS quality. So you've got options. If you're at 1080p, you've definitely got some options, haven't you? You've got more options than you did at certainly 1440p and definitely at 4K. Like 4K was just a no-go with this card. But if you do want to get into the triple digits, have somewhat of a high refresh rate experience, well, borderline high refresh rate experience, you can kind of get there. Look, though, now the GPU usage is at 96%, so if we just sort of stop here, look directly ahead, to look at the instant readout, 119, 118, 121, so call it 120. If we go to performance, are we going to get any more, or are we going to start to get a CPU limit? Yeah, so our GPU usage has dropped now to like 90, 91%. Now we've gone to performance mode and we're gaining pretty much no FPS, which tells me that perhaps we are seeing a bit of a CPU limitation going on. Although look at, I mean, the GPU usage has gone higher now to 98%, but the power draw is still in like the 190 watt range. So that does tell me there's more bit of a CPU limit going on here at the moment, I would say. Okay, let's flick back to the high preset. We'll keep DLSS on performance mode. And that's not bad, is it? That's not bad. 100 FPS, near as damn it. 1080p. High. DLSS in performance. It will depend on your sensitivity to DLSS at 1080p. DLSS 4 in performance mode definitely helps compared to DLSS 3. But I mean, if you want to go to quality mode does dip a little bit, but you are going to get higher image quality. So, as with all these things, it's a trade-off. But we are comfortably above 60 FPS, 1080p, high DLSS quality. I feel like this is like just the feel of the game now. It feels nice. This is kind of where I would want it to be if I were playing. Does go to show, though, doesn't it? Just how Unreal 5 can completely destroy your GPU. I know we're only on a 3070, but we saw it with the 7900 XTX. We saw it with the 4080. Just how, these incredibly powerful GPUs, the Unreal Engine 5 can just be like, yep, I'll ruin that. So I do think with that in mind, we need to be a bit sensible with the choices we make. Dropping from ultra to high, I would say in general is good advice, because I don't feel like you lose that much in terms of visual eye candy. I mean, if you were to start pixel peeping it, of course you could tell sort of differences, but if you're actually going to play the game and not obsess over it like some sort of weirdo, you can probably have a really nice time on high. I mean, that to me looks good. And we've got a nice solid FPS on a 3070, which is an 8 gig card. Getting a bit long in the tooth now. I'd say that's a good result, all things being equal. So there we have it, folks. I hope you found the information in this video useful. The only other card I've got left that we could test is an RX 580, but I mean, that card struggles to run even more modest games than this, so I think that's probably going to be a bit of a no-go, to be honest with you. But yeah, very, very interesting testing this game. It's kind of reassuring to see that with a bit of help from DLSS, particularly DLSS 4, we can get some good results, even on a card now that's an 8 gig card in 2025. So it's good to see. It's good to see that the 3070 can live on, and that those of you out there with a card like it or similar to it can still play games like this. Obviously not 4K, but even at 1440p, if you're happy to go with medium, bit of DLSS, particularly how you can now backport DLSS 4 to the 30 series cards, even the 20 series cards, I believe. It's really cool. I'm kind of surprised NVIDIA did that. That seems like the kind of thing they would not do just to try and encourage you to upgrade. But awesome that they've done it, because the image quality is so much better. It then affords us the options of performance mode to get us the frames we want without the visual degradation that we saw with DLSS 3. Anyway, I'm going to stop rambling. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like, leave a comment. It helps the video, it helps the channel a ton. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, take the very best care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.